All right, hopefully we are actually live this time, and hopefully it all works out. Before we start getting too deep into the stream, I do want to make sure everything is good. I'm not seeing any packet loss or anything, so that is usually a good sign. But yeah, so as some of you might have known from earlier, I did try to stream, and I just wanted to do a stream talking about A Song of Ice and Fire. I like to do these just random streams every once in a while where it's just like kind of a love letter to the universe, or I guess to George's universe. And I want to talk about what kind of separates A Song of Ice and Fire from a lot of the other books I've read. And again, this is going to be very biased to whoever you are as a person because however many books you've read, right? I haven't read the most amount of fantasy books, but what I have read, George has a very distinct way in which he does a story, how he writes characters that I find is different than almost any other story. So that is what this stream is going to be about. Don't know how long this stream is going to be. Just because I wanted to give you guys a stream since I didn't stream Friday since it was my birthday Friday, and I was just really busy all week last week doing midterms and stuff like that. So I am now on spring break. So I have a little bit more time. I want to give you guys a stream today and then also Friday. And what's some other stuff I want to update you guys on? That's about it, but let's kind of dive in. So I have a couple book series that I kind of want to talk about in comparison to A Song of Ice and Fire and how different authors do books. So for me, I just saw Dune 2, and I would highly recommend it to anyone that likes Dune, or maybe hasn't even read the book or has not even watched the first movie. I'd go back, watch the first movie. Dune is an interesting book. I talked about this in the first stream I tried to do, but again, it got cut out because my internet was being really bad. But Dune is an interesting story because it has a decent amount of elements from A Song of Ice and Fire, but the author Frank Herbert goes a very different route than A Song of Ice and Fire, where A Song of Ice and Fire, you have each different chapter, you're inside a character's head. So you really understand what that character is thinking. You have to speculate on what the other characters are thinking. So if we're in A Feast for Crows and we're Cersei and she's talking to Marjorie, we know what Cersei thinks about Marjorie. We know what Cersei's thinking in that conversation, but we don't know what Marjorie's playing at, right? We don't know what Marjorie's game is. How politically intelligent is she, right? Like the one thing that the show did was they gave Marjorie more of a character than what the book does, right? The book doesn't give us as much into the character of Marjorie as the show did. And so Frank Herbert kind of takes that style. And again, Frank Herbert, Dune came out before Song of Ice and Fire, I believe. But he has that kind of a style, but it's not like each chapter is a character talking. Each chapter can fluently switch in between different POVs, and so you have a different way of telling the story. Because in a single conversation, where let's go back to my Cersei example, you could have Cersei talking to Marjorie, but in Frank Herbert's, instead of it just being Cersei, it would be Cersei at parts and Marjorie at others. And so I find it very interesting because it's a very big switch of pace. It's a read that I don't think you can like casually read because you have to be paying attention. Because Frank Herbert, almost unannounced, will switch who is talking. And for me, that is something that doesn't work to me. I'm not a huge fan of that style, but it's a style that's different from George R. R. Martin's that other people might like. I have two friends that I would consider are basically my level of knowledge on A Song of Ice and Fire in Dune. So I find that very interesting, the way other mediums try and tell a story different from A Song of Ice and Fire. And again, they have similar things going on within them, right? A Song of Ice and Fire has very political things motivating it. So does Dune, right? A lot of what is going on with Dune in the actual planet is motivated by politics, by power, by greed, things like that, all things that are similar to A Song of Ice and Fire. But the thing that I think always will take A Song of Ice and Fire ahead of a lot of different mediums, and that's not to say a lot of mediums are bad or whatever, I just think A Song of Ice and Fire has a leg up in one part of it, being that George writes his characters better than any other story, in my opinion. Like, if you compare Lord of the Rings and A Song of Ice and Fire, I think Lord of the Rings as a whole is better than A Song of Ice and Fire, but for one thing, right? Like, or not one thing, there's a couple things A Song of Ice and Fire is better than Lord of the Rings, but Lord of the Rings, because it's completed, is better than A Song of Ice and Fire as a whole. But A Song of Ice and Fire, to me, writes characters in a way that no other story has really captured for me, right? Like, So if let's do a comparison, right? If we look at the character of Jon Snow, Jon Snow is a character that at the beginning of the story is someone that doesn't really know who he is as a person, right? He's still looking for his purpose in life. That's something that we see in a lot of different mediums, right? That's not a very unique thing. But what is unique, the way George does play on the character, is he gives Jon some interesting conflicts and he has to build upon. We take Jon Snow, a kid at Winterfell that always felt like he was never the character that was getting the attention. He was the one that felt left out. And so he takes that and he goes to the Night's Watch and he becomes the opposite. He is the one that has a lot more of the privilege. He's someone that's better at sword fighting. He is someone that's better for like groomed for command, things like that. And so what George does is he takes what was a big conflict for Jon and then splits it on its head, right? He makes Jon a very compelling character that has things that he needs to work through. If you think about book 5, it's Jon being in a position of power and a leader. How does he lead, right? And so I think it's funny because I just read a Dance with Dragons chapter, Jon 3. It's where the fake Mance gets burned. And one of the big things that Jon is dealing with is how does he deal with his friends, right? And so he sends them away, whether that's Eastwatch or whether that's the Shadow Tower. All that's really interesting because it plays on the idea of Jon's conflicts, things that are going on within Jon that I just feel like a lot of mediums don't really do. Is it bad that I've never got into Dune because the main character's name is Paul? I don't know why that irks me so much. That is an interesting reason as to why to not get into Dune. I will say, I only got through about halfway through the Dune book. I was just someone that I did not like the style in which the story was told, because the way the first half of the first book goes, and I've been told it gets better, but to me, it's just, if I'm not bought in by that first half of the first book, then I'm probably not going to get bought in. But the thing that the book does is it kind of takes all the big events, all the big twists, and it tells you them before they happen, right? So if you imagine the Red Wedding, right? We get a lot of foreshadowing for the Red Wedding, but what would it be like if we got a POV of like Roose Bolton and Walder Frey talking about the Red Wedding, what was going to happen? That's kind of what you get in Dune in the first book, and I do not like that storytelling because it almost feels pointless to get to this point because you know everything that's going to happen outside of like our main characters are going to live, right? And so yeah, I don't know, I like Dune. I like the movie version of Dune because I think it like takes all the ideas and puts it into a better, more concise way of telling the story. I didn't finish the first book of Dune, so I can't compare the second half of Dune compared to like the movie, but I mean, to me, Dune is a very good movie, or the two movies are pretty good. Just I'm not a fan of the book. What separates them the most is that they have a finish, whereas here there is no hope inside. Yeah, that's a great point, Zen, as well, right? Like that's my thought process with Lord of the Rings. I think if A Song of Ice and Fire even had a good conclusion, like I'm not talking like Storm of Swords, like everybody thinks is the best book. Like I'm talking if it was just Dance with Dragons, Feast for Crows quality, and for me those are like the two lower books, but they're still very good books, I'd be happy, right? And so I think Lord of the Rings, because it is a perfectly crafted trilogy, is a better book series than, say, A Song of Ice and Fire. And that's really unfortunate to say, Zen. It's very unfortunate, but that I think is the truth. I mean, so I want to go back to kind of what I was talking about with characters, though. When you look at A Song of Ice and Fire, and the reason I think so many people love A Song of Ice and Fire is the characters. The way the characters are relatable, the way that they can interact with the world. It makes you think about, yeah, this is a real person. This is the way people would interact. If you think about like Harry Potter, for instance, right? So Harry Potter is another book series that I've read, and I will be watching and or reviewing the show that comes out. But I find that when you think about it, right? Harry Potter, it is really good, but it doesn't delve into a lot of conflicts of the world, right? Like it does, but it doesn't. It focuses on our main trio almost exclusively. Like we do see here and there issues and characters, but it doesn't have the big overarching character developments where you have a character like Jaime going from a villain all the way to being one of our favorite characters and one of the best written characters. So it's like when you compare A Song of Ice and Fire to other mediums, it's, to me, the thing that always is better about A Song of Ice and Fire is characters. So Dune is more about politics and the disconnected actions that people try to use to control the universe. A Song of Ice and Fire is about personal conflicts. Agreed, right? Like, again, there is overlap, right? There is overlap in the two on what their interests are. But yeah, I think what makes Song of Ice and Fire so interesting is that it's more personal. It makes you challenge your beliefs. For instance, if you're in Ned's position, would you, and by the way, when I'm saying Ned's position, at like right before his coup, when Renly approaches him and that they should capture all the kids, separate Cersei from her children, would you do it? Like, if you were in Ned's shoes, would you do it? I find that to be very interesting. But yeah, that's another thing that makes Dune unique as well as Zen. Is it has a different like history to it. Like, what is it inspired by? Whereas I feel like a lot of fantasy, a lot of mediums are more inspired by like English history, European history. So yeah, that's a very unique way to build your world. But yeah, I do think that's a very interesting part of A Song of Ice and Fire when it comes to character decisions, right? Putting yourself into the character and what would you do, right? I think that's very interesting, right? Like, what would you do if you are John with Ygritte, for instance? It's like you have a vow, but you really like this girl. Like, there's just interesting situations that test your beliefs. Hi, Larissa, how are you? Didn't get the notification. Yeah, I think, well, here's the thing, Ashley. I tried to stream earlier in the day and I did it like 2 different times. And so I think YouTube was like, we're not sending out notifications this time. But, yeah, I don't know. At least the other books got finished. Yeah, that's a great point, George. That's a great point, right? Like, that's the one thing that holds back A Song of Ice and Fire from being probably the best. What wouldn't I do if I was Robert Baratheon? Yes, that's a good one. Glad to catch you. Well, I'm glad you're here, Larissa. If chat has anything else like that makes you think A Song of Ice and Fire is unique to others. But yeah, I love how big the community has grown. Been here since Zen, you've been here for a long time. You've been putting in the shift. You're one of the OGs. One of the OGs. But let's, at this point, I think this is a good little break point. Let me know, how's everybody's day doing? How's everybody doing? What'd you guys do? We're having a later stream, back to kind of the roots of the channel. This is kind of the time I used to stream at. How's everybody doing? But I will say, long day. So I'm basically am dog sitting for my aunt, and so take care of a dog, which is pretty cool. Doing a lot of YouTube work. I've been doing, so for any of you guys that are interested in more content from me, my second channel, I am reviewing the Avatar show, and so that has been, yeah, a lot of editing for episode 3 because I'm having just technical issues. The more people you have, the more equipment you have, technical issues just happen. So yeah, it's been difficult to put all that together. Where the heck is his grace? I don't know. I mean, Matthew is in the military, so I know he has a very difficult time with getting on his phone and such. Good, I'm on day shift now instead of night shift when I used to catch your streams and videos. Oh, well. How do you like that? How do you like that better or worse? This lines up with my schedule since I live in Sydney, Australia. We got a lot of Australians. That's one thing I've noticed in this community. We got a lot of Australians. I would love to go to Australia, but I'm also scared of Australia. There's a lot of like big things in Australia. There's a lot of things that would like kill me in Australia. Yeah, I was gonna say Larissa's also from Australia, so you guys need to get talking about A Song of Ice and Fire or something. I don't know, but yeah. I missed the night shift incentive. I have 200 less a week on pay. Oh, that's no good. That's no good. Well, I mean, do you work on a rotation? Like, do you do like some months your night shift, some months your day shift? Um, Littlefinger would encourage me to make the move and usurp. I could see that. Yeah, I could see it. That's just something interesting though. It's because it's like when you're put in so many situations in which you can gain power or wealth or women or whatever you want in life. How do you like it tests your morals? That's what's very interesting. Like when you look at a character like Jaime, I just find it very interesting. But also, I mean, if you think about other mediums, right? Like Lord of the Rings, right? I love Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings, I think, was something that I really loved more when I was younger because it's more digestible when you're younger, I think. And so I will always say, like, of my youth, Lord of the Rings was my favorite. But as I was growing up, like, as I was hitting, 17, 18, Song of Ice and Fire became by far my favorite just because it's so relatable. It's just relatable in the way that you look at all these different characters in which they're trying to figure out who they are. That's a very good theme. Like, who is Dany, for instance? The whole first book is about her discovering herself. It's more or less what it's about. And you throw in, oh, you have an abusive brother. You throw in her being sold into this Dothraki tribe, and how does she deal with that situation? So it's the ideas that George takes that are very simple, and he expands upon them, and he makes them more intricate. That's what I find very interesting about George's writing. Like, there's a lot of things in here that are very basic that he just changes. He just makes them more interesting, right? Like, you have an abusive type of father. Tywin was Tyrion. Very basic level. And then you take that and you build your story around it. I find that very interesting. The characters are so flawed that you're drawn to each of them and get on their journey. Their character arcs are intriguing. Exactly. And again, I think something else that makes that very interesting is the way that there's consequences to what our characters do, right? So if you're someone and you're in Ned's position and you're like, no, I'm not going to be, I can't do this. My moral, my ethics, they tell me I should not imprison or take these kids in the night, right? And it's not like it's out of place, right? Because in a lot of mediums, I think characters make decisions that don't fit with their characters, what they are established as being. So when you look at A Song of Ice and Fire, with like a character like Ned, the past experience when it comes to Rhaegar's children at the end of Robert's Rebellion, that big rift that it caused between him and Robert. You look at possibly either Jon being a Targaryen or even being a Shara's and the way he would feel protective over that. And so everything plays into that decision that really is what ends up getting Ned killed and or imprisoned. So again, there's just real characters that have real backstories that feel like this is an actual history, right? Like History of Westeros. And one of the things I really love about their YouTube channel, or I guess their podcast, because I've noticed they haven't uploaded on YouTube in a while, which I find is weird, but they almost like tell A Song of Ice and Fire as if it was a real history. And I just really enjoy that. Agreed. Lord of the Rings just feels like cardboard cutout. Sorry, Tolkien, and Star Wars used to be good, but then we all see what happened. Song of Ice and Fire has me loving Cersei POVs. I don't think, like, this is my thing. I don't think Tolkien and his characters are like basic exactly, because they are very interesting characters, but I think the thing is that you have to look back at when those books were written. It's just a very different time, right? And the fantasy genre as a whole was not really that established at this time. Tolkien established what a fantasy series should be, really, right? Like, when you think about the way we view orcs, the way we view elves, the way we view dwarves, the way we view all these things, it's because of Tolkien. And so because there's so many years have gone on, it almost feels very basic. But you have to think about it from that lens that, like, Tolkien invented this stuff. Like, he invented languages. He is one of, I still think, even over George, way over George, he is one of the best authors when it comes down to the idea of making you feel like you're on a journey, right? The way he describes the environment, the way he describes how our characters are feeling, it's very compelling. Like, my favorite parts of Lord of the Rings will always be when Frodo leaves the Shire up until Rivendell. That journey, being hunted by the Nazgul, the way he builds tone and mood in that first book specifically that's the best parts of Tolkien, right? Tolkien doesn't exactly, in my opinion, in the main 3 books, like he has other characters in the Legendarium that are also very interesting, are more complex, but Tolkien's strengths, in my opinion, were never characters. Tolkien's strengths, in my opinion, was always world building, atmosphere, tone, creating very creative things like the Nazgul, the orcs, things like that. But yeah. And Star Wars used to be good, and then, was not expecting to stream. Well, here we are. I tried to stream earlier, did not go well. My internet was not having it, but which book have you reread the most in our never-ending wait? Mine is surprisingly A Dance with Dragons. That doesn't surprise me, because Dance is a book that if you're like saying, oh, you're getting built up into the hype that like Winds is going to get released soon because of one of these not a blog updates or a YouTuber is telling you, oh, it might be coming, that's the one you're going to read, because that's the one right before Winds. So I don't think that's like that surprising. Mine is A Game of Thrones, just because it's the first book. Like, I just think I've maybe like read that book and then planned on reading the rest of the series, but then maybe only read the first 1 or 2. So I would say A Game of Thrones. I think it'd be a close second with probably Clash. Actually, I don't think it's that close. I think it's A Game of Thrones by a mile, and then I think it's Clash, Storm, Dance, and then Feast, I think, would be the order of which I've read them the most. But we'll see. I don't know. I like how there's room for us to decide how we feel about the truth of the story being told. Many sides to the truth. Exactly, right? Like, because you have multiple different characters that have their own biases on the way events played out. Right? Like, Jaime's that perfect example, right? Because in book 1, Ned is our main character, and Ned has a very bad opinion of Jaime. And so we are introduced in the story seeing that point of view, seeing the Stark point of view onto a character like Jaime. And so when we come to Jaime and we finally get more of the character in A Storm of Swords, we can see that, again, this wasn't the full story, right? Like, there is a part of the story that Ned is telling, but we didn't get to see the other side of it. And that's something I think you can take into your everyday life, right? When you see 2 people having a conflict, there's a different side to everything, right? Somebody could be telling you, oh, this person lied or something like that. And the other person might be going, I didn't lie. And then something else. And this is what something else happened, and that they created that. Like, that's what I find so interesting, that you can take parts of A Song of Ice and Fire and realize that that is things that are relevant in the real world. Love to have you, Zeno, as always. Unpopular opinion, I love Feast for Crows the most. Feast for Crows is a book that I've always said this, it's my least favorite of the main 5. But when I say that, I don't mean it's a bad book. I think people like will hear me say that and they'll say, oh, you don't like Feast for Crows. It's like, no, I love A Feast for Crows. It's just not my favorite of the 5. But again, if you like A Feast for Crows, the thing you're going to like the most is probably the Dornish plot, the Ironborn plot, the Cersei stuff. I don't know. I mean, even Brienne, like, honestly, all the plots are pretty good. It's just some of them are slow at certain times. But yeah, I think Brienne's chapters, especially once you get past the first 3 or 4, are fantastic. I think I just love watching Cersei fall while smugly going, yes, I'm perfect. I'm the smartest, most beautiful thing ever. Yes, it is very fun to, like, one of my favorite parts of Cersei's chapters in A Feast for Crows is when she's basically just like, these dresses, they must have shrunk, or they weren't made properly. Meanwhile, it's just Cersei's getting fat because she just drinks all day and eats all day. I don't know why. I just really enjoy that aspect of Cersei's character, but she's just somebody where it's just like, she reminds me a lot of a person that I used to be friends with. Just like, they can never be wrong. It's always someone else's fault. It's always something else going wrong. It's never like their problem. Cersei is that like character that has no self accountability whatsoever. Like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, it's just, yeah, she's just, yeah, perfectly put by Ashley. She is delightfully delusional. What is the newest book you have read? Have you started any new series? Again, I will in the summer. I just don't have time. I like, because my school schedule is so messed up right now, I really don't have time to do so. Um, I will say though, the one I've read that's new to me is probably the Witcher book, which I read out of order. I think it's the Blood of Elves, I believe, and that is not the first book of the Witcher series, so I've got to go back and get the other ones. I did like the book. I thought it was a weirdly paced book. There were elements of it that I thought were like, yeah, it was a bit slow at times, but I did think it was good, so I'm interested in the series. I read the first half of Dune like probably like 6 months ago, but as of right now, I just don't have time for reading. Outside of like doing my reread and preparing for my Dance with Dragons retrospective, so I don't have a lot of time to do other stuff at the moment. Plus reading for classes, so yeah. I do want to do that in the summer though when I have more time, because as of right now, my only like free day is Friday. And so yeah, just uploading between the two channels consistently is, yeah, it's a lot of work. What's your thoughts on the Fall of Numenor? I pre-ordered it before its release and it's eating dust on my shelf. I have not read it, so I cannot tell you whether you should read it or not, because I have not read it. I would assume it's probably good, but I have not read it, so I can't tell you. But yeah. All right, so some of the things that I really like about A Song of Ice and Fire. I really like the history. I like the way that everything feels like it has some part of lore. It has some sort of story to it. This is something very similar to The Lord of the Rings, where all these different new places we go to seem like they have some connection, whether that's to Fire and Blood, whether that's to the Dunk and Egg stuff, whether that's something else, right? I really do enjoy that aspect of it, right? Like, I just got done reading Davos 1 and Dance, and if you guys don't know, that's basically where he's in Sisterton, and I really enjoy that there's something new and awesome to every little thing, right? We get more details and bits and pieces into how did Ned get north, right? For Robert's Rebellion. Very relevant information that, again, I literally used in a video last week. I forgot what day it was there for a second. Are you into Warhammer 40k at all? I am not, unfortunately. You like Darkstar, Grease? Yeah, Darkstar is my favorite character. I really like that he's the edgelord, and yeah, I mean, also he's Donald Trump's favorite character as well. So I know some people think that I like script those. No, that's actually Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I mean, Donald Trump he loves Darkstar, and Joe Biden, I don't remember what character he liked in that, but he liked someone. He liked someone. I don't know why I can remember all the things that Trump made jokes of, like Asha. I remember that. But yeah, I don't know. I hate Darkstar now. Oh no, I've destroyed Ashley's love of Darkstar. Let's not even get into politics. Politics are just shit in America. They're just fucking terrible. Like, all the politicians suck. You know the political system is terrible when the best two candidates we can think of are two old guys that fucking suck at their jobs. Like, okay, let's get off that. All right. Speaking of politics, I love politics in Song of Ice and Fire. That's another thing that's like just great about the story. But I know I'm just giving you a hard time. You always give me a hard time, Ashley, all the time about everything. Either it's, oh, you're Rhaenyra simp, or it's, I don't know, or it's you don't like Darkstar, or it's, I don't know. I don't even know, Ashley. I don't know. I'll be like Robert, but with men. Oh God, your hot booty. That's another one. I will say my booty is not hot today. It feels okay today. It's probably because I didn't do like a lot of physical stuff today, which is good. I need to heal up my body. I got a wedding this week, guys, by the way, and I got to give a speech. I ain't looking forward to it. It's not a long speech, but I ain't looking forward to it. I don't like public speaking. like this is different, right? Like this is different. Like we're just a Song of Ice and Fire nerds, right? It's a way different here. But like talking in front of like 100 people or whatnot, it's not it. So I got to get that. Men's Warehouse hasn't gotten my suit in, and the wedding is quite literally Saturday. So I guess I'm not getting adjusted. That kind of sounded weird. The suit is not getting adjusted. Yeah. And bring the wine and men. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. We're gonna see a lot more sex scenes in your way of this going down. But yeah. Also, while we're here, right? While we're kind of at the getting close to the end of the stream, is there any idea or any videos you guys would like to see? I've been trying to brainstorm some ideas. I got some ideas that I'm gonna do for this week and then maybe next week. But I'd love to hear any ideas you guys want me to talk about. Like, what are you guys interested in that you want me to do? Do you guys want me to see you doing like Targaryen lore videos, like covering Fire and Blood, just coming up with ideas on that? Do you guys want me to focus more on, I don't know, like some battles? Like I did the Battle of the Blackwater analysis. Do you guys want to see more of that? I do plan on doing a little bit of Rob's campaign when I get there in a Game of Thrones in the reread. So I will be doing a little bit of that. Do you guys want to see more of those? I could do like other battles, like the first Blackfire Rebellion, the Redgrass Field, could do that. Reaction to House of the Dragon episodes to get ready for season 2. Okay. So what do you mean by that? Do you mean just like rewatch the series and then just do like just because I don't know how I would do that. I don't know. Could Robert have defeated Dany if she had invaded when he was alive? So that's going to be interesting. What point are you saying that Dany invades? Like, are we talking with Drogo? Are we talking the current story, Dany? What are we talking at this point of the story? Because that's an interesting idea, right? Like, could Robert and a unified Westeros have defeated Dany? Because it also, like, that completely changes a lot of different things going on. Because does Varys and Illyrio reveal young Griff at this point? Like, it's very interesting. Because I don't think that, in my opinion, I don't think that Dany would get any support from Westeros. Like, I don't see it. So, I don't know. But Zen, expand upon what you mean by doing reaction videos to grow the channel. Like, how would I do reaction to like House of the Dragon episodes? Because I've already done those. Like, they're not exactly a reaction, but rewatch plus analysis. I think you add more value than other watch party channels because of your vast amounts of knowledge and the fresher perspective from the books that you can give. Oh, okay. So you mean more like I'm rewatching them like on a like recording. Like you don't mean like just watch it and then do a review after. Okay. That would be interesting. Yeah, I could definitely get into that. I don't know if like I don't know. I think that would be really cool. All right. The War of the Nine Penny Kings. I like that idea, Zach. I like that. Let me take another screenshot. I like the screenshot chat when I see good things. Okay. I like those. But yes, the Larissa, the booty. It's feeling okay today, but you know. Ashley, I know you're here for anything. You're up for anything always. Always. Even when I post hate videos of Darkstar. The only problems that I have is I can't really make a different, like, I can't really create a different setup. Like, this is kind of the way the setup has to be. The only other way I could do it would be if I took all of my editing stuff and moved it to my basement. But then it would just be very difficult to, like, I don't even know how, what do you mean by doing a nice setup? Like, how would I even do that? Like, because I can't get a studio. I don't get paid from YouTube nearly enough to do that, but that would be cool if they reanimated Game of Thrones. That'd be cool. That'd be really cool. I'd like to see that. But I will say, I am excited for some shows coming up. Second, by the way, again, this is another plug for viewers that are in the chat, for people rewatching this. Second channel, I'm going to be covering a lot of different shows. Going to be covering Fallout show when it comes out. The Harry Potter reboot that I think is going to be happening, like, that's a little while away from now, but be covering that on there. Be covering, well, I say covering, but it's more like shitting on Rings of Power when it comes out. That'll be fun. Or it might also give me brain damage, because the last season gave me brain damage. I had a mental breakdown the last time we watched that, but yeah, you know, I like doing my secondary content on there. Yeah, I mean, Zen, it is pretty, like, that's the thing, is like, because of the way my room is and my living condition at the moment, like, this is the best I can pretty much do. The only other thing I could do is, so if you guys watched the YouTube short I did for Valentine's Day where I'm simping over Rhaenyra, in the basement right now, like, there's not much down there, like, we don't really use it. I could theoretically take a lot of my stuff in my room and just make it kind of like a studio type thing, but I have heard Warhammer 40k does have a lot of lore. I've heard it. I have some friends that are interested in it, so maybe in the future. Right now, I don't really have the time to get into something like that vast at the moment, but yeah. But that's probably gonna be the end of the stream, guys. Thank you guys all for joining. I always enjoy spending some time with you guys, as always. And okay, hold on. I do like this idea. All right, well, Ashley, let me screenshot. I like that, but I might talk about that in the future as well, Ashley. But thank you guys for watching. Hi, Taylor, by the way. Thank you for joining the stream.